Hi, this is Luther Flagstead with Vizstas.com, and today I'm going to be demonstrating how to build a viz with a chart where the user can reveal marks through clicking and also reveal story points to drive the narrative. So we have here a data set from a Makeover Monday, week 43, 2020. We've got months here on columns. And then as a measure, we're looking at the value of US apparel imports by month for 2019 and 2020. And as the user clicks on each month, it reveals another mark here in the chart, as well as updating the story points to drive the narrative. So that's a quick example of what one looks like. And now I'm going to be walking through how to put that together. So the underlying data set is 3 columns. We've got date, our measure, and then the narrative. And in these cells here for each of the months, I've typed in the story that I want to be telling. So you'll need to type in your data here in your spreadsheet as well. So I've opened up a new workbook connected to that data. We've got our 3 columns here you can see. We'll go to sheet 1. Okay. First, we'll right click and drag date onto, not into rows, onto columns. Choose month. All right, so we've got our 6 months here, and we'll put our measure on rows. And we'll right click on date again, pull that to path, and choose year. Okay. So what we'll want to do next, and this is optional, just for the particular chart that I made, we're going to do a dual axis. So you can either put another pill on the rows shelf there, or you can just pull the same measure again to the right until you see this dashed line, and that'll create a dual axis for you as well. And don't forget to synchronize the axes there. Okay. So this one, we're going to put year on color, and we're going to make it into a circle. And let's change the colors. You do something like, oh, let's do a pink here. Okay, and on our line, maybe we can make that maybe purple just for fun. And then we'll change the size here. A little pretty big. And we'll make the circles a little smaller. Okay, so something like that. And we can hide our header there. All right, so now that we've got our main chart built, the next thing we're going to do is create a parameter. This is a little tip here from Jeffrey Schaefer, one of his tips of the day. And you can quickly populate a list instead of typing in every single value here by just going over to the range, choosing the range that we want. We've got 6 months, so in this case, we only want 6. Oops, I hit the enter button. All right, so we've got 6 in our range. And now if we click back on list, step size 1, there we go, then it populates our list ahead of time. And if you're putting in a lot of values here, it definitely will save you time. 3 and June. Okay, now we can hit enter. Hit OK. All right, we've got our parameter. Let's rename this as well. Display month. All right, and now the next thing we'll need to do, of course, is create a calculated field that uses that parameter. And we're going to say that the date part of month for our date field is less than or equal to our parameter. Create a Boolean here, and then pull that over on our filter shelf and hit true. Okay, So let's show our parameter to see what's going on here. So we've got the display month of January. January is being displayed. Click on February. Now February is showing. March, April, May, and June. Okay, good. One of the problems is that when we select January, we only see that one month. But we would like the entire chart to be displayed, all columns at the same time. So we just need to go to Analysis, Table Layout, and Show our empty columns. Okay, so now, as the parameter is updated, the marks are revealed in the chart. Okay, good. Let's call this main. And now let's create a second sheet called months. And we'll put the date on columns again. I'm going to make sure that you're a month. And then we're going to do something here just for the user interface or user experience, where when they click on a month, that we get a little highlighting action going on where it shows which month is selected. So we'll just put 1 on rows, and then we will make this a Gantt chart. And we'll put our months on label. Let's do entire view. Okay. So now when we click on our month, we've got this little bar underneath the month that shows which one is highlighted. So let's turn off tooltips to get rid of that annoying tooltip that shows up in the command buttons. And something that I like to do in this case is to choose whatever color you want. I'm going to choose black. And then I'm going to turn the opacity all the way to 0. So the mark is actually black, but it's opaque so that you don't see the color until you click on it. And we can also change the size here so it's not so wide, just so it kind of is right under the month there. Okay, that'll be good. All right, so now let's build actually not a sheet, a dashboard. Pull our main sheet out. And we're going to use this second sheet as our header instead of the labels here on the columns. So let's hide those. We'll hide the title. We can do the same here. And we're going to want to put a little blank object here so that they line up. All right, let's put a dashboard title on there. Okay. All right, so now we've got kind of the basic wireframe here of what we want to build. We can format this and get rid of our grid lines. Maybe we want to change our mark size to make them a little bigger. Okay. And now the next thing we're going to do is add a parameter action so that clicking on the month activates this parameter over here. Let's go to Dashboard, Actions. We'll add a parameter action here. So when we click on months on that sheet, on select, it's going to target our display month parameter, the month. We can put the aggregation on none and hit OK. So now we've got the functionality that we want. So this is basically it. This is really all there is to the main functionality of revealing marks with a click. We can go ahead and do a couple of things just to help the user experience here. And you've probably run into this before, where when you click on a mark, it highlights that mark and grays out everything else. We can get rid of that with a tip that comes from there was Jeffrey Schaefer's tip. That was one of the tips of the day from October 8th. The next tip I'm going to show you comes from the website Sons of Hierarchies by Brian Moore. And he's got this neat little simple tip that will deactivate that highlighting here. So all we need to do is create another pill that's blank. We'll pull that over onto here. We'll call it Highlight Killer. We'll go back to our dashboard and we're going to add a highlight dashboard action on that month sheet. It's going to target the month sheet. We're going to want to select just that field. We're going to hit OK. So now when we click on a mark, essentially what's happening is it's highlighting all of the marks at the same time so that nothing gets grayed out. And you can see that here the Gantt bar is at the same time showing you which one of the dimensions here is being highlighted, or the last one that was clicked on. All right, so now what about the narrative? How do we do a narrative? So let's make another sheet here. Call it narrative. We're going to pull that out on rows. We're going to pull out month because we need to have this activate with our parameter action 2. All right, so we can, and we're getting nulls because if you remember in our data here, we have some of these cells that are empty. So let's just pull that on filter and get rid of null. And this is another tip that comes from Jeffrey Schaefer, and this is actually the tip of the year. We see that we've got the ABCs here over on the right, and we don't want to see that. We're going to want to actually have our narrative in the header. So how can we get rid of this? Well, there's a few different ways to do that, but one crazy way is to hold down the control button and click to the right a few times, then drag it all the way to the left, hold down control and click left 5 times, and it disappears. He explains that in more depth on his blog, but as to why exactly that happens. But anyway, it's gone, so we don't have to worry about it anymore. We are going to hide this header, and we're just gonna make this a little bigger so that we can see all of the narrative. Okay, good. And we're going to need to create another calculated field that uses our parameter that we created. We're going to call this display narrative. So this will be date part month of our date field is equal to our parameter. And we'll put that on a filter and say true. Let's pull that out as a floating object. Okay, so now whichever dimension we choose here, whichever month we choose, it is going to update our narrative. We can hide those, hide our title, adjust that to whatever size you want. We'll put it down in the corner here. And you can, obviously play with the font size on this. format the header as narrative. Make you a little bigger. All right, there we go. And to avoid the user from accidentally clicking on this and highlighting it, we can float a blank object on top of it. And this is a good way, if there's anything that you don't want your user to be accidentally clicking on, you can just float a blank object over it. Let's take a look and see what this looks like here. All right, so now when we click on January, we see our first mark for January and our story point, and everything is updating as we want. And from here, the only thing left to do is to play with your formatting to change your colors, change your layout, and get this to look exactly how you want.